MTM, Mike the Motivator with the winning edge. I just so excited about another day above ground. It's always a beautiful thing. And today, the one thing that I want to talk about is one of our greatest faults as people. And this is important because I see it all the time. I've been guilty of it. And I know many people who are extremely guilty of it. I mean, they just do this all the time. So here's the topic for today. Basically, what I'm talking about is misinterpreting information. So a lot of people, you'll have a conversation with them and they misinterpret what you're saying. And that creates a lot of problems. You know, people are so irrational, meaning you could be saying one thing and emotionally they just go off the cliff with something totally, they misinterpret it completely. What we have to do a better job of is calming ourselves down, listen to what's being said, and not jump to conclusions. I find this to be a big problem with a lot of people. You say one thing and they interpret it as something totally different, like you're speaking Chinese or something else. And a lot of times, that brings a lot of complications into a lot of different relationships, whether it's business, personal, whatever it may be. So I think that people have to grow their intelligence. See, this is about emotional intelligence. If we can grow emotional intelligence, we can be better off because we can actually interpret things for how they are, not for what we think, what we're perceiving. With the story that we're telling ourselves in that moment, it can become blown out of proportion. You know, a lot of people are overreacting to information that they're receiving, that they're not even receiving it correctly. So a lot of it is emotional intelligence. A lot of it is growing that emotional intelligence. How do you do that? Heck, be more self-aware. Are you experiencing emotions that you're not supposed to be experiencing because you're misinterpreting information? In a lot of cases, that's what's happening. You might be dealing with somebody that's completely irrational and doesn't get it. And sometimes that's just emotional intelligence. So, the only reason I bring that up is because this is something that we all have to do a better job of. Emotional intelligence is probably one of the key factors in us being able to get along with each other, not jumping to conclusions, and really just interpreting information the way it's supposed to be, not from an egotistical perspective, but from a perspective of objectivity. If we can do that, we can get so much further ahead. But I believe we're still a long way to go, because I see people, reacting irrationally all the time, and I see it, and it's just, to me, it's just there's so much emotional intelligence lacking that I wanted to talk about it, because I feel like maybe if we can be aware of it, we can actually get better at it, because you can't get better at something that you're not aware of. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, we can become more aware. We can actually work on our flaws. So self-awareness is important when it comes to not misinterpreting. I got friends like that. I got people that I'm close to like that. And unfortunately, you have a discussion with them, and they go out, they take the information, and they take it completely different than what you meant it to be. And that's a sign of lack of emotional intelligence. So what we have to do is we have to work on our emotional intelligence and just keep being self-aware, getting in our own heads so that we know that we can communicate. Because if you're unemotionally intelligent, you're going to lack communication, and that's where everything falls apart. If you're irrational, you can't communicate properly because you're like all over the place. You're just overreacting to everything. That's what an irrational person does. They overreact to everything, and that's a dead end for sure. So I want people to know: try to be as irrational as possible. Don't be super emotional, because a lot of times when you're in that position, you're gonna set yourself up for failure because you're irrational. You cannot communicate. You cannot function with somebody else if you're being irrational all the time. You shut your communication levels down. So really, that's what I want to talk about. Let's become more emotionally intelligent, more rational. Rational meaning logical. Let's talk to each other. Let's not react like little kids. And basically, being irrational is like being a little kid. So if you're being irrational consistently, you're not a mature person. And that's okay. You can improve that. But you got to be self-aware. You have to know. Basically, that's how little kids react. So we have to get to a point where we can communicate, talk about different things, and not be irrational about it. Being rational is more important than being irrational. You got to be rational. You have to be able to discuss things without blowing up like a little kid. And there's too much of that going on in this society. I see it all the time. And to me, it bothers me. I don't like it. Why? Because you can't win if you're irrational. You got to be rational. You got to have emotional intelligence, emotional stability. And at the end of the day, if you get those two components together, you can make a lot of good judgments. You can make a lot of successful decisions in your life. But when you're irrational and you don't have emotional intelligence, you're going to be making a lot of bad decisions. You're going to be reacting instead of evaluating. You got to evaluate. That's emotional intelligence. What's being said? What information am I getting? This is how you got to operate. This is how I operate. Unfortunately, I run into people that don't operate like that. So a lot of times, I have to stoop to their level so they can understand what I'm saying. Because a lot of times, they're so irrational, I got to react irrationally. Because now, if I don't react irrationally, they're going to just try to jump down, just try to get the advantage over me. That's not going to happen. But anyway, emotional intelligence, being rational, being as logical as possible. We are emotional creatures as people. So what we have to do is try to be emotional intelligence, emotionally stable, and that's what's going to create a better life for all of us. So there you have it. Another winning edge episode with Mike the Motivator, FTF with the winning edge. Let's keep it going. Let's keep this thing rocking and rolling. We're going to keep putting this positive information out there for people to get better. You can take it and use it and run with it, or you can continue to be the way you have been and possibly just keep failing, or possibly keep reaching a dead end because you haven't applied the things that you need to apply to have a successful life and a successful existence. Thanks for watching my video. I'll catch you on the next one.